Members, good afternoon. Welcome to the meeting today. This is the appointed time. We have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. Agenda item number 1, information papers issued since last meeting. Since last meeting, the Secretariat has not received any information paper. Agenda item number 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for the 19th of May, Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. The administration proposed to discuss the following 2 items. 1. Progress on developing Hong Kong into a regional intellectual property center. It is the first item on the list of outstanding items for discussion. 2. Latest development of the Santine Technopole. It is the second item on the list. I'd like to ask if members have any views regarding the items. No? All right. We're going to discuss these 2 agenda items. Agenda item number 3. Latest development of the Kong-Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park. I'd like to invite representatives from the administration and the Kong-Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park Limited to join us. Members would like to speak, please press the button to request to speak. This agenda item relates to a financial proposal in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure. If members have a pecuniary interest in the item under discussion, whether indirect or direct, members should declare the nature of the interest before speaking. All members of the Council are invited to the discussion of this item. Let's welcome Professor Shen Dong, Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry, and his team, as well as Mr. Vincent Ma, Chief Executive Officer of the Hong Kong-Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park Limited. I'd like to give the floor to Professor Shen. Thank you. The Hong Kong-Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Zone is the major platform under the 15th Five-Year Plan. It comprises the Hong Kong Park and the Shenzhen Park. It has the concept of one zone, 2 parks. It combines the advantages of the principle of one country, 2 systems, as well as the advantage of one river, 2 banks. It aims to become a global innovation hub to groom INT talent. In 2024, the government published the development outline for the Hong Kong Park of the Hetao Shenzhen Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Cooperation Zone. From the top design, it guides the development of Hong Kong in relation to INT. In December 2025, the first batch of enterprises have already joined the industry park. About 90% of the 2 wet laboratories have already been rented out, attracting over 80 local and overseas enterprises to Hong Kong. There are life and health technologies, microelectronics, and so on. In order to attract more enterprises and to give full play to the distinct advantages of one zone, 2 parks, and one river, 2 banks, we need to facilitate the cross-boundary flow of different elements, including manpower, data, capital, and logistics. We are collaborating with the relevant counterpart in the Chinese Mainland to use the white list as well as the green lane and so on. In order to implement these policies, we need to do well in hardware and software. $3.7 billion will be set aside for speeding up the development of the park. We will also improve the transport network and facilities so that we can provide biobanks that meet international standards. This will facilitate the cross-boundary flow of biological samples. I hope members will support this funding proposal. In addition, the Hong Kong government is speeding up the development of the LHTRI. We propose to refine the existing model. We will have the 1+3 model, and we will also promote the establishment of the LHTRI headquarters in Hong Kong. This will not involve any additional funding. Instead, we will be able to make good use of the $6 billion already approved to develop Hong Kong's advantages. The development of the Hong Kong Park is being taken forward at full steam. We are confident that the Hong Kong Park will become a global innovation hub that brings together global I&T talent and will also boost the development of the new quality productive forces of different enterprises. My team and I, as well as Mr. Vincent Ma, are glad to take questions from members. A total of 14 members have pressed the button to request to speak. They are Mr. Hong Kam In, Dennis Leung, Sunny Tan, Alan Chan, Jonathan Lamport, Jimmy Ng, Andrew Yao, Chilap Wai, Professor William Wong, Mun Kit, Ray Wong, Professor Priscilla Leung, Dr. Thomas So, Yu Ming. 3 minutes each. Questions and answers included. Mr. Hong, please. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Professor Sun. The headquarters will be set up using the method of IN3 model. There will be a headquarters in Hong Kong. This will be set up in Hong Kong using the 1+3 model. I'd like to ask, for the 3 branches of the LHTRI, have you decided which 3 universities it will be linked to? What about the vetting standards, criteria? What is the progress so far? In addition to local universities, will the administration consider inviting top-tier life and health science from around the world as well as from mainland to join us? This will help us give full play to the advantages of connections with the world and having the staunch support of our motherland. This will also speed up the development of the I&T sector in Hong Kong. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hong, for your questions. Regarding the criteria, we have already started the selection process. We invited different universities to submit expressions of interest. We have received a total of 3. They are submitted by 3 different universities. The remaining 5 universities in Hong Kong will also have different degrees of participation. In addition to local universities, we have also seen the participation of different universities from overseas. The ITIB has visited multiple universities. We have conducted a lot of meetings with different universities. Of course, we have floated a lot of proposals. Basically, we have selected 3 proposals. The LHTRI Board of Directors have been established, and the 3 proposals have already been forwarded to the board. They will follow up on these proposals. We have had deliberations back and forth. The 3 proposals target the 3 branches. There are different focuses. We hope to combine the strengths of local universities so that we can focus on 3 main areas, including advanced healthcare technology, advanced diagnostic technologies, as well as targeting an area for geriatric diseases. AI differs from life and health technology. Thank you. Mr. Dennis Leung. In February 2021, $18.1 billion have been approved. $17.258 billion have been approved to be spent on the complexes. I'd like to know the progress. $877 million have been approved to be the operating fund for the I&T Park. In 2026 to 27, the $110 million will be used up. Are you going to come back to the Council to apply for funding? $3.7 billion will be applied for to build infrastructure. That is a Western Cross River Link bridge. However, there is none in the east. I'd like to know whether this has been done in the east. Regarding the subsidy program for the setup of Life and Health Technology Research Institute, I'd like to know how $6 billion will be distributed. There is no mention in this regard in the document. Does it mean that the funding received by the institutions will be less? Thank you. Thank you, member, for your questions. I'd like to ask Mr. Gordon Chong, Acting Permanent Secretary for ITI, to take your questions. In February 2021, $18.1 billion have been approved. $17.2 billion have been approved to fund the 5 complexes. 3 of the complexes were commissioned in December last year when the park was commissioned. The overall progress is smooth. Regarding the remaining 5 complexes, we are speeding up the work full steam ahead. It is expected that by the end of this year, they will be completed. Regarding the amount of $17 billion, it's sufficient for our work, and we can dovetail with the overall development of the park. $877 million will be set aside for the development of the park. Member is correct in the sense that among the $10 billion, it is expected that there will be more injections when we enter the park. A small portion will be set aside for the development of the company. We are going to introduce another financial provision for approval by the Council later on. The third question is that in relation to the amount of $3.7 billion, Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 infrastructure. And if we need to further develop the public infrastructure in Phase 2 as well as the value-added services, we will come back to the Council in due course. Regarding the last question asked by member, I'd like to respond. Regarding the method of 1+3, we have taken into account the latest development of the overall circumstances. That is how we can speed up the development of the Northern Metropolis, not least the Hong Kong Park. We want to create a state-level life and health science research and development platform. Therefore, in branches and headquarters, there will be different fundings. But it doesn't mean there will be a reduction provided to local institutions. The overall amount is going to be spent on the INT sector in Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Sunny Tan. Just yesterday, the Hong Kong government introduced the latest measures for introducing leading enterprises, including one pharmaceutical company. 5 of them have chosen to establish a foothold in Hong Kong. As reported earlier on, many pharmaceutical companies want to go global through Hong Kong. If we can facilitate the cross-boundary flow of biosamples, this will be a major advantage that Hong Kong enjoys. This will also help Hong Kong boost international competition. I'd like to know whether there are possibilities that these pharmaceutical enterprises will establish a foothold in Hong Kong, especially in the INT Park. I'd also like to know how we can make good use of our golden name card of 4 flows to attract different enterprises to come to Hong Kong so that we can create a cluster. Co-chains may also be involved. What about the facilities in the Loop area as well as the Northern Metropolis? Can you tell us more? Thank you. Every year, when we announce measures for introducing leading enterprises, some have already established a presence in Hong Kong, whereas some are going to do so. After we have introduced these enterprises into Hong Kong through whichever department, they need to settle down in Hong Kong. including the Hong Kong Park, they will play a more prominent role. We have different enterprises that are establishing a foothold in Hong Kong, including pharmaceutical companies, and I believe AI and life and health technology will also play a bigger role. Many members expressed concern that over the past 5 years, no one is ever more anxious than I am. There are many complicated national policies, and I'd like to share with you one point. After years of efforts, we have managed to take forward a lot of policies regarding data flow rather. We have already reached an agreement with the Shenzhen counterpart. This is awaiting the green light from the country. We are expecting that this will happen by the end of this year. We may conduct pilot schemes, but we will get started. Regarding people flow, we are waiting for the establishment of the bridge or the construction of the bridge. Then we can continue to discuss having a whitelist with the Shenzhen side, and I believe this is our work forward. I believe after the construction of the bridge, it will be commissioned next year. Regarding capital flow, we have a preliminary plan. We have conducted communication with our country for many times. We are expecting a breakthrough in capital flows among the 4 flows. 4 flows play an important role and are key to the success of the Hong Kong Park. From the perspective of the Central People's Government, they would definitely support the development of Hong Kong into an international INT center. We have 4 main directions. One of the directions is to achieve policy innovation. Thank you.
Next one. Thank you, Chairman. One is related to the 4 flows. Of the $3.27 billion, they include about bank, and by 2027, the various facilities will be commissioned. And the paper also mentions that the 4 flows was including data and biosamples, the cross-boundary flow that is being discussed with many authorities, but there's no definite time frame provided. So has the Bureau decided on any key indicators, and when's the latest deadline? And the green lane and the white list, what are the latest arrangements? And for the first batch of enterprises to move into the park, overseas ratio only makes up about 13%. Mainland enterprises make up 50%. If you want to connect the mainland and the international community in relation to the positioning of the position, there seems to be a gap. So if the 4 flows policy is implemented and the Shenzhen Park may pose competition to us, to our park. So Hong Kong's uniqueness then could be under strain. So how would the Bureau make use of Hong Kong's status under one country, 2 systems, and to have mutual recognition of data, come up with relative or relevant policies, and how many of the mainland enterprises coming into Hong Kong will be top companies or scientific research giants coming to Hong Kong? Secretary, as for your point about the alignment of software and hardware, the timetable for cross-boundary flow of various information in other areas, I mentioned several times that Hong Kong doesn't have the right. Even though we have done a lot of work, we are now negotiating with the relevant mainland authorities. Let me reiterate that no one here actually is more anxious than me about the 4 flows. We've worked on it for 4 years, and we are waiting for the approval from the mainland. I hope that while renovations are underway at the park, we hope that at least some of the 4 flows can be in operation this year, at least on a pilot basis. I hope that LegCo members, whether you are NPC delegate or in your capacity as an official delegate, let's join hands to get this thing done. And as for the ratio of overseas enterprises, I think the first batch, well, of 2 buildings, well, actually had a certain percentage of overseas enterprises who were moving there. As I mentioned, one of the 10 leading international pharmaceutical companies will move in there, and I'm sure that the Innovation Technology Park Company has done a lot of work in that regard. And as Mr. Chen mentioned, the low ratio of overseas enterprises, and that would mean that your point that would mean that we are competing with mainland enterprises. But I don't agree with that. Mainland enterprises actually are using Hong Kong to internationalize. I need to stress that we are now connected with both the mainland and the international community. I'm sure with more buildings completed in the years ahead, particularly when the 4 floors are in operation, then the Hong Kong parks will demonstrate its attractiveness to the international community. It will become even more attractive by then. In the beginning, things were a bit difficult, but now, whether mainland enterprises or including or Hong Kong enterprises make up most of the tenants there for at this moment, that's normal. But I'm sure that with the ecosystem being set up, more overseas enterprises will set up footholds at the park. Even mainland enterprises, when they are based here, they do want to internationalize, even though they originated in the mainland. But when they set up a company in Hong Kong, they will be an international company, whether in terms of capital or employees. So I think don't think that because it's a mainland enterprise and we're not internationalizing the park. Let me stress that. And also, once again, I'd like to thank Mr. Chen for your valuable opinions. Next one. Thank you. I've got 2 questions about the operations and the recruitment of entrepreneurs at the park. Let me declare that I have a new energy company at the Taipo Industrial Park, and we were under the incubation program of the Science Park in 2004. We also have hired a doctorate to carry out research at our company. The paper mentions that 90% of the first building in phase 1 of the park have been rented out. So it seems that you've achieved good results with attracting businesses. But if you want to further leverage Hong Kong's strengths, now of the 80+ enterprises at the park, 13% are from overseas. Now with the complicated geopolitics, what specific policies do you have to attract more top-notch international innovation technology enterprises to set up shop in Hong Kong? And my second question is, of the 108 startups we have been based there under the incubation program. Now at Science Park, I find that the labs are very expensive. For companies that manage to move to the Science Park, even renting a table costs more than $20,000. So there are a lot of vacant offices at the Science Park. So we need to think what we can do to support local startups operating at the park, so they will want to remain in Hong Kong and don't move their laboratories to Shenzhen or Zhuhai. So, because otherwise, once they've moved to China, it's difficult to bring them back. Okay, 2 questions. Any supplement, Secretary? As for your first question, in my reply to Mr. Chen, I explained already. As for attracting overseas enterprises, of course, that's one of our key aspects of work because that can greatly foster internationalization of the park. But I think we have lots of mainland enterprises which are well connected. It's important for them to come to Hong Kong. When the park's ecosystem flourishes, I believe that there'll be more overseas companies arriving. The CEO of the park is also here. I hope that the park can take note of that. And also, in choosing tenants, the Park Limited would look at the business development prospects of a company. We cannot deny that. We've got so many mainland enterprises which are very competitive in the technological field, because in the past few years, mainland has seen rapid increase and development in technology. Some of our mainland companies even have a high technology level than that in overseas. As for excessive rents, I totally agree. I do hope that rents could come down. The cost of development can come down, whether at the Science Park, Suburb Port, or Hetao. I kept saying that, why is location so expensive, and that cannot be conducive to research development. But I understand their difficulties, but I think we're trying to solve the issue. I think we do need the development of the entire I&T ecosystem and a change in this system. I think let's encourage one another. I totally agree with your viewpoint on that aspect. Next one. Johnny Ng. Jimmy Ng. As mentioned in the paper, you have selected 108 startups, providing subsidy for them and targeted support. Can you give us some figures for our reference? That is, of the 108 startups, how many of them are at an activation stage or acceleration stage? Have you done any calculations among these startups? On average, how much subsidy have they received? And it's expected that there'll be 70 startups to be subvented, but now the startups accepted is actually number more than what is originally expected. So would you perhaps operate a new round of incubation program? Your questions, I'd like to refer them to the CEO of the park, please, Mr. Vincent Ma. Let me report to you the situation of our incubation program. As mentioned in the paper, our incubation program is very popular because altogether 1,700 companies applied, but we focus on two industries. Half is life and health, and the other is artificial intelligence and data science. So we about 50% of the applications are from either one of the fields. So our situation. We accepted them applications in 3 stages. The ideation stream took in 35 companies. The second stage is the Ignite program, which is in the intermediary stage of development. And then we also have the acceleration program, 10 and 11 companies involved respectively. In our life and health technology incubation program, we would provide cash support up to 12 million. So that is $5 to $6 million for each stage. So together 12 million in total. Artificial intelligence is 4 million in support altogether. In terms of our cash support, basically, the Finance Committee approved $200 million in total to us, and artificial intelligence in the area, the cash support would be taken out from our operating fund of $800 million. So we began the incubation program for artificial intelligence companies first. Whether we'll have second or third rounds of programs, definitely we will. As mentioned by Mr. Chong in the Financial Secretary's budget, $10 billion has been reserved for us, of which a target is that part of the money will be used to support our future incubation programs, the new cohorts of that program. Yep, that's my explanation. Thank you. Next one is Andrew Yao. Thank you, Mr. Ma, for coming. I've got 2 questions about the recruitment of talents at the park. I'm very pleased to hear that we've got 80 enterprises now who have moved into the park. In Shenzhen, there are actually up to 400 enterprises based in the Shenzhen park. So we need to hurry up to catch up. And of the 5 buildings in phase 1 will be completed this year. So by then, how many more enterprises can be accommodated there? And what is the progress of the government's recruitment of tenants in those buildings? And also the dedicated legislation for Northern Metropolis, once it's implemented, compensation and construction costs and so forth, there should be room for improvement in those areas. And would there be room for the development of the Hong Kong Park? So can the government, when can you give us a timetable so we know about the development of the park?
Thank you. I'd like to ask Mr. Gordon Chong, the Acting Permanent Secretary, to take these questions. Thank you. Regarding the overall planning, in the development outline, we have already said that in 2030 and 2035, these will be 2 major milestones. In 2030, there will be some projects being commissioned, and there will also be cross-boundary flows. In 2035, the overall planning of the parks will be completed. We go along with Mr. Andrew Yao. We hope to expedite the development of the loop area. Regarding the background brief prepared by the Secretariat, it already mentions in 2027, within this year, these parks will be commissioned one after the other, so please rest assured we'll definitely strive to speed up the development in this regard. Anything to add in relation to attracting talent and investment? Mr. Vincent Ma? Thank you. As Mr. Gordon Chong said, the 6 complexes will be commissioned soon. We have already started inviting and attracting investment. Complex 1 will be commissioned the soonest. We believe the first and the second enterprises will establish a presence soon. Rental agreements will also be signed soon. I'll give you a ballpark estimate. It depends on the request of the companies arriving. 333,000 square meters, that is for the first batch, whereas the upcoming 5 complexes will provide an additional 800,000 square feet. 90% of the gross floor area will be able to accommodate many companies. So we can house at least 200 or 300 more companies when we have these additional floor areas. Thank you, Mr. Chilap Wai. The information paper is very detailed. I support the establishment of the LHTRI. I have 2 questions. I'm concerned about 4 flows. This is an innovative policy and a breakthrough in the establishment of the HSITP. Now we are going to approve funding for the relevant infrastructure and facilities. I agree and I support it. I'm also very confident it will definitely do well in this regard. But after we have done the hardware well, what about software, especially regarding data flows, logistics flow? How are we going to manage supervision and risk management? There are 2 wet laboratories which have already been commissioned. The rent rates are also very good. What about talent hostels? In the second quarter from this year, we are going to introduce the PPP model in relation to some parcels of land. I'd like to know the market demand in this regard. How are we going to incentivize that the private sector will move into this new park? Thank you. The first question relates to 4 flows. Hardware and software are equally important. They are needed. Supervision relates to software. This has to do with our funding provision of $3.7 billion. There will be sensitive data, but where will they be stored? We do need relevant data facilities. When biosamples arrived, we need to use these samples. The companies in the park may lack good facilities for the storage of these samples. These biosamples may be highly sensitive, so we need some facilities to store these biosamples. We also need to help pharmaceutical companies to conduct R&D. So, in other words, we need facilities and laboratories for these projects. In addition, the amount of $3.7 billion will also be used on the laying of pipes, infrastructure, transport networks, and so on. Regarding supervision or regulation, whether it be data or logistics, including sensitive biosamples, we'll consider using the methods of whitelist and green lane. When they arrive, how can we make good use of them? This is a matter our country attaches a lot of importance. To this end, the Hong Kong government has prepared detailed information to report to the country. For instance, the transportation of biosamples, the use of biosamples, and how these samples will be disposed of after use. We have a comprehensive regulatory measure and proposal. Some also say that we need to employ technologies to monitor data. A lot of data are on the negative list of some countries. When they have arrived, how can we keep them in the park? In addition to hardware, we need manpower, and we also need someone to be responsible for these biosamples. The park plays a pivotal role when it comes to this. It is expected sometime this year the relevant information will be published. Thank you. I'd like to ask Mr. Vincent Ma to give you further information. We have about 100 units. Actually, not a lot. 30 to 40% of the people have already moved into the talent apartments. After renovation, talent will move in. And we are now in the middle of the peak of renovation. The rental rate is on the low side. However, in the not too distant future, the talent apartment will be filled up very soon. The demand is indeed very great. Professor William Wong, I need to declare interest. I'm a professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Welcome, Mr. Vincent Ma, for coming to the meeting today. I have visited the park in the Loop area for many times. Every time I visit it, I see major developments. I have one view to express and two questions to ask. In the Shenzhen Park, they are using a method, and I suggest that we can make good use of single portal for online government services. It's just like having one single portal to connect different services. Regarding the AI LHTRI, it uses a 1+3 model. I'd like to know the division of work, especially when it comes to IP. Based on my experience in our research institutes, there were issues relating to the distribution of IP. Regarding the setup of the Loop area, probably there will be research conducted at the headquarters. So the headquarters itself will conduct research, so will the three local universities. There seems to be duplication or overlapping, so I'd like to hear from the park. My second question relates to another area. That is regarding the ratio of subsidies within the LHTRI. At present, Government 4, Industry 1. In Shenzhen, Government 1, Industry 9. That is the ratio in Shenzhen. However, international ratios stand at 3 to 7. I'd like to see more industry participation. It shouldn't be borne by the government wholly. When the industry becomes mature, will there be appropriate adjustments? Thank you. Thank you, member, for your questions. The first question is about distribution or division. Last year, we confirmed the receipt of 3 proposals, and this is exactly the issue that we need to solve. There shouldn't be significant overlapping. So for the 3 LHTRI branches, the research focuses are very clear. The universities are very clear about the division of work as well. We have the major direction of AI in relation to LHTRI headquarters. When it comes to minor areas, there may be slight overlapping, and this is very normal. There will be established protocols and policies, and there might be appropriate adjustments, and I'm not going to go into details. In relation to funding ratio, Government 4, universities or Industry 1, this is our outcome after discussion. Some say that the government should pay more, but actually we have taken into account pragmatically the local circumstances. We need to take into account the reality, including the circumstances of different universities and institutions. In the future, if need be, we may make adjustments having regard to the situation then. Whether the headquarters of the 3 or the 3 branches of the LHTRI, there needs to be breakthrough about scientific research. This is exactly our aim. Mr. Ng Woon-kit, thank you. The government is introducing 80 top-quality enterprises and those with computing power. And there will be a significant demand for AI and data science talent. I'd like to ask whether the administration has any plan on attracting global talent. What about STEAM education at secondary schools? Will there be internship pilot schemes? Will there be collaboration programs combining the industry, academia, and research? The cost is actually quite high this time, covering data centers. Are there any KPIs regarding the use of data centers? Some local startups or SMEs do not have significant startup capital. Is it possible to provide funding? So in the park, there will be HPC computing power development. Thank you. Thank you, member, for your question regarding the grooming of talent inside the Hong Kong Park. We focus on grooming talent, bringing together talent, and so on. The ITIB focuses on targeting these talents. They lead industries with technology, and they also bring together talent. This is our view on bringing together talent to Hong Kong. Institutions, including secondary and primary schools, focus on training INT talent, and I'm glad to see this. Decades ago, mathematics and science education were very important, but then as time went on, their significance dwindled. However, at present, STEM education is receiving more prominence, and I'm glad to see this. In addition to the grooming of talent, I hope the STEAM education will also be strengthened. For new areas that have to do with INT, as I understand, some schools are strengthening these areas. I hope that the local INT ecosystem will continue to be developed so that it will become robust. We need INT talent. We need to groom talent. We need to attract INT talent. Otherwise, youngsters won't join. Alongside attracting talent, we need to retain talent in Hong Kong. The next question relates to data facilities. There are sensitive data. We need to securely keep them in one place. We need to make sure data will be able to help with the development of the park. These are basic facilities. In this process, we adopt the principle of users pay. This is funded by public funds. If companies want to use it, then they will have to bear some of the costs. I believe the cost will be reasonable. Regarding greater computing power, they can use the supercomputing power of Cyberport or the Sandy Ridge Data Park. They will provide ample computing powers. Thank you.
Well, next one is Ray Wong. Hongkong as an important platform, it can leverage the local advantages. And I have two concerns. First is about the cross-boundary flow of scientific research supplies. And the paper says that you will expedite the approval for the relevant policies. But for example, high concentration alcohol or restricted chemicals, and they are exempted from tax in the mainland for scientific research purpose. But in Hong Kong, those supplies would be subject to heavy tax and also go through very stringent vetting procedures. So in the future, would you consider provide more convenience for the flow of materials for scientific research and also create a one-stop actually handling process so as to avoid unnecessary obstacles? And this can attract more enterprises to set up bases at the park. And also, how can you promote involvement of SMEs? It seems that you're actually the park, the use of the site at the park is mainly for, of course, scientific research. But a lot of the services and procurement for the park at different stages of development could actually provide opportunities for SMEs. So they do need clear information to help them decide what role they can play in the park. So would you consider at the next stage provide a more systematic plan of the development of the park and the various needs and services that could be provided by SMEs, so the SMEs can have earlier planning, and there can be regular communication channels or platform so that you can actually pass on the information to all interested parties. Thank you, Mr. Wong, for your question. On your first question about a cross-boundary flow of scientific research materials for biosamples, they are the key, and cells, seeds, all kinds of samples, but they are on our prescribed list because there's also on the national list, checklist. But Hong Kong, for materials coming into Hong Kong, of course, they need to comply with the local requirements. As for taxation issue, we will find out more for work carried out at the park. Whether there's a need for that, we'll see. In light of the taxation requirements, we'll discuss with the relevant department. As for the development of other industries and the direction of development, we mentioned before, at the Hong Kong Park, we want to focus on three areas. One is life science, life and health, and the other is robotics, artificial intelligence, data, and the third area is advanced manufacturing material. We hope that from now on we can enhance our publicity. Now we are trying to well, just begun our work to attract enterprises, and we've got 2 buildings completed, so we can see how things go. By the end of the year, when the buildings are completed, we have about 100 companies which will set up bases at the park. And later on, we will invite tenders for the other buildings to be completed. I'm sure by then, more attraction will be given to the industry, and because they will know about the collaboration between the government and the sector to create a good ecosystem. Priscilla Lau, thank you, Chairman. In 2021, I was involved in passing the $80 billion bill. So several years later, I'm pleased to see the progress made so far. Particularly, we have said that we want to break down barriers and also to facilitate flows of talents, data, and so forth. And there should be a green lane and whitelist. I think the government has accepted our opinions back then. But now I'm concerned about, I asked other bureaus as well. That is in our overall outline. Now, we are going to concentrate so many high-end talents. We want to keep them so they can spend here, send the kids to local schools. But so what about the support measures? Now we have got the infrastructure, the roads built. But this is a massive plan. In the mainland, whenever there is this development of such a gigantic park, they will let the high-end talents, the overseas investors, know what they can expect 5 years later. But it seems like in Hong Kong, now you've done the work at the park, but they need to have support measures. Do you have the plan to provide all other support in due course? And secondly, for the LHTRI, the 4-to-1 ratio, I'm pleased to see that the government is giving 4, and then 20% will be given by universities or the sector. But for life sciences medicine area, pharmaceuticals have a big impact in that regard in the West. So whether it's universities or pharmaceutical companies, now we are providing them with this support. Then we should be able to actually share the profits. So in the future revenue, we should be able to have a share of them, either in the form of dividends or as a shareholder. And if universities like Hong Kong U, they issued bond up to $1 billion for the development planning of Northern Metropolis. But what about other universities? You've got 3 branches there. Secretary, 2 questions. On your first question about the support measures, you know, Hetao has 8 stages of development. And within its limited area, you cannot provide all sorts of facilities. But even so, in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Park is planned such that about 10% will be reserved for the development of hotel and accommodation purpose, so that the talents can come and work and live at the park at the same time for a period of time. So I hope that in Shantin Technopole, we'll follow the direction of development there. The Shantin Technopole has got an area of 600 hectares, in which 200 hectares are reserved for industrial development. The 300 hectares are reserved for other kinds of development. I do hope that they can meet the needs that Ms. Leung mentioned. As for the research institute itself, the IP right is given to the institute and the branches. At this stage, the government is mainly providing the subsidy. We hope that in the upstream, midstream, downstream research, there can be great improvements and results. And we also monitor and also vet the downstream development. I hope that they can transform their research results into actual products. So there will be commercial operations involved. I hope that in the process, revenue can be generated and be given to the research institute, because it is owned by the government after all. But This year, we will launch 2 funds to have the Venture Fund 2.0, version 2.0, and also Innovation Technology Commissioner will also work on the funding support to be given. So we hope that companies with positive research potential, we will have shares and we'll invest in that and make gains later on. Next one, Thomas So. Thank you. I'd like to ask about the funding for live health technology and also the research institute. I heard that in the past few years, the government in the area of life and health technology had injected a number of some capital. For example, in 2024, you donated $2 billion for the Indo-Hong Kong platform to be set up shop in the Hertao area, a research and development center. And another $200 million has been allocated to the Hong Kong-Shenzhen Innovation Technology Park for innovation and incubation purpose. And now, today, this LHTRI project has been given a funding of $6 billion last year. So can you tell us of these various types of funding support for Hong Kong, the $200 million for incubation program and the $600 million for the research institute, how do they relate to each other? And also for Hong Kong research platform, $2 billion have been injected into it. And what about its outcome of research and its facilities and staff? Will they become automatically part of the new RI, or will they be operating separately, or will there be any overlapping of resources being used? Thank you, Mr. So, for your question. I'd like to ask Mr. Lee from the Commission for Innovation and Technology to answer. Well, you mentioned 3 places where we provided support for research in life sciences and health. You mentioned that we had incubation program before and allocated $200 million for that. The program focused on nurturing startups, scientific startups, which can launch products for the market. That actually targeted at the downstream development. So there's a clear actual division of labor there. And as for Indo-Hong Kong platform, you mentioned, there is a life science technology platform involving more than 10 research companies. We focused on specific themes in that regard. You can see that as relevant experts focusing on their areas of expertise on particular themes in a particular kinds of laboratories. We hope that they can create research outcomes in the medium and the downstream research. So that's a bigger scale laboratory that you can actually imagine. But the latest LHTRI is of the largest scale, and we hope that it can help foster cross-disciplinary, cross-institution research. So their positions are different, positionings that is, and we do hope that ultimately the research outcomes could be turned into products available in the market. About 1 minute left. I'd like to ask question 2. 2 questions here. First, about the $3.7 billion that is for building of infrastructure. And I know that there are 20 plots of land in Hertao, which the government will collaborate with private developers. So for the $3.7 billion, besides the infrastructural needs for the private companies which will be involved, would they need to inject some resources for the building of infrastructure, or would that be covered by the $3.7 billion after the 0.37 square kilometers area is covered? And also, you talk about the important data for life science technology. You need to accumulate them, store them. They cannot leave Hong Kong. That's the rule under the national rule. So technologically, how can you ensure that the data will not leave the park? And management-wise, how can you ensure that the companies using those data will not take them out of the park? How can you monitor them?
Thank you. I ask Mr. Gordon Zhang, Acting Permanent Secretary, to take your questions. Regarding the amount of $3.7 billion, it's about providing a good INT ecosystem for the laying of underground pipes, transport network, and so on. We will also model on the approach used in Sandy Ridge. As for external equipment and facilities, we'll continue to be responsible for that. Regarding the biosample bank in relation to 4 flows, we want to send this message to the market. We want to inject confidence into the market. The other area is we want to make sure that our projects, including the one about the biosample bank, will be conducted in a controllable and safe manner. That's why when it comes to transportation, disposal, all these will have to meet the standards agreed by Hong Kong in conjunction with Shenzhen. Thank you. All members have already asked questions, and I need to ask members regarding this agenda item. This is a financial proposal. Do members not object to the submission of this proposal to the FC? No objection. All right, we're going to submit it to the FC. Thank you. That is the end of this agenda item. Thank you, Secretary and his team. Let's move on to the next agenda item. Item number 4, establishing in Hong Kong the first National Manufacturing Innovation Center outside the Chinese Mainland. I invite the Secretary and his team to join us. We have Professor Sun as well as representatives from the Hong Kong Microelectronics Research and Development Institute. Members who would like to speak, please press the button to request to speak. I'd like to give the floor to officials to take us through the papers. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to take members through the establishment in Hong Kong of the first National Manufacturing Innovation Center outside the Chinese Mainland. This is an important development plan of our country. In different areas, we have established 33 national manufacturing innovation centers. All these are in the Chinese Mainland. We have signed with the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology a cooperation agreement on the development of new quality productive forces and the promotion of new industrialization. Different national important policies we agree and support. Under the budget of 2026 and 27, $220 million are proposed to be earmarked for the establishment in Hong Kong of the first National Manufacturing Innovation Center outside the Chinese Mainland. This has strategic importance. This will also dovetail with the overall technological and industrial development of our country. We can leverage on the strengths of our country in relation to power semiconductors. This will also help our country to give full play to its own advantages. We have the Hong Kong Microelectronics Research and Development Institute to spearhead the development and establishment of this first National Manufacturing Innovation Center outside the Chinese Mainland. This will also spearhead the development of power semiconductors. We have clear goals. We need to develop next-generation power semiconductor technologies specifically tailored for extreme environment applications. We also need to promote the commercialization, transformation, and industrialization of scientific research outcomes. We also focus on cultivating talent to build a global talent hub that attracts and nurtures world-class scientists. We need to leverage on the advantages of Hong Kong of having connections with the world. We need to develop power semiconductors, and the First National Manufacturing Innovation Center will comprise overall research and development, pilot production, infrastructure, design, and so on. In addition, we will also focus on AI, big data, and with a large platform, this will comprehensively enhance the self-reliance of our country in relation to power semiconductor technologies. The Institute will be responsible for the operation and establishment of the first national manufacturing innovation center outside the Chinese mainland. There will also be a technical expert committee comprising renowned domestic and international experts. They will be responsible for analyzing different issues and selecting research directions. They will make sure that our development are in line with the global trends. In 2026, the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology will kickstart the project. We will, in a pragmatic manner, apply for the upgrading of our center to a national level. I hope members will support it. In the second half of 2026, we will seek funding approvals from the Legislative Council. This agenda item relates to a financial proposal in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure. If members have a pecuniary interest in the item under discussion, whether direct or indirect, members should declare the nature of the relevant interest before speaking. All members of the Council are invited to the discussion of this item. 7 members have pressed the button to request to speak: Mr. Hong Kam-in, Professor Priscilla Leung, Yu Ming, Moon Kit, Dennis Leung, Ray Wong, and Ellen Chan. First round, Mr. Hong Kam-in. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Secretary. I agree with the establishment in Hong Kong of the first national manufacturing innovation center outside the Chinese mainland. I agree that we need to develop power semiconductors. In paragraphs 18 and 19, it referred to the overall purposes of the funding, as well as the self-financing basis of the center. At present, we need $440 million for the first 3 years, and the Hong Kong government needs to subsidize about $220 million, whereas the remaining expenditure will be borne by the Innovation Center. They will seek other funding sources, including the industrialization and commercialization of research outcomes. I'd like to know whether you are confident about the amount. 3 years later, the gap will be made smaller, and in the coming 5 years, there will be profits. I'm no expert in this area, but I have a lot of doubts. I'd like the administration to explain further. My next question relates to talent. The operation of these centers requires sufficient talent. For the talent in Hong Kong, we don't seem to have enough talent to operate the center. As set out in the document, we will attract global talent to Hong Kong so that we can further develop the INT ecosystem in Hong Kong. In the northern metropolis, there will be the establishment of a university town. I'd like to know how you are going to work with the Education Bureau or with the universities that are interested in establishing a presence in the university town. Is it possible to expand the talent list? Is it possible to cover the top talent pass scheme as well? This will ensure the operation of this innovation center. Thank you. Secretary, thank you, member, for your questions. I have the same worry as members have in relation to the first question. We need to understand that there are already 33 national innovation centers that are led by enterprises. The government doesn't need to pay anything. Well, I stand corrected. It should be the case that the government pays 200 million renminbi. I have taken part in a few innovation centers in the Chinese Mainland. Some are led by INT giants. It's not just about $220 million or so. We have already drawn reference from the situation in the Chinese Mainland. So this time around, we are going to have the Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute spearhead the development of the Innovation Center. The Commissioner can provide more information later on. But at this moment, they are making investments and we are conducting work on our side. 220 million Hong Kong dollars, that translates to about 200 million yuan. The current ratio is 1:1. The money is mainly spent on purchasing equipment. We want the Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute to lead. They have the responsibility and obligation to make good use of these resources, including their own resources. We need to make it the overall responsibility of the Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute to run well the first National Manufacturing Innovation Center. We need industry income as well. Otherwise, there will be a heavy burden on the Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute. The most successful R&D institute in the world is IMAC in Belgium. It's been 4 decades. The government needs to inject about 100 million euros into the institute. That's about 15% of the expenditure. What does this mean? This means R&D institutes can make huge profits, but it doesn't mean the government does not need to pay anything. That is because the government has given vision to the R&D institute. When they have financial resources, they can do even better in the future. That's why we want the Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute as well as the National Innovation Center to have even more income. We will support the Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute to support the first National Manufacturing Innovation Center. But within a period of time, the center needs to establish links and connections with local enterprises. That's why we want enterprises to pay a part of the cost as well. Talent is close to the heart of many members. Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute has provided different doctoral programs with local universities to train and groom local professional students. We will also take a two-pronged approach to groom talent. Professor Priscilla Leung. Thank you. Premier Li Qiang mentioned in his report, page 8, that all over the country we are working hard to standardize or uniform the market. We are actively expanding the manufacturing industry. All limits in relation to foreign investments have been lifted. Let me put it this way. Whatever China wants to achieve, they will definitely hit the goal. This is the first National Manufacturing Innovation Center outside the Chinese Mainland. It's all about making good use of the general direction. This is the major trend. I agree that the government shouldn't pay all the costs. This model in use is exactly right. The government needs to work hard, but so does the market. The government shouldn't give the industry the free rein when the industry is doing the best. Like the US, if you let go of the project, things might not move towards the best direction. Advanced technologies are very important. So I'd like to ask, put it this way, if we can surpass the international level, how can we move forward together with the mainland enterprises? With regard to talent, as you mentioned in paragraph 21 of the paper, how can we elevate the First National Manufacturing Innovation Center to a national level platform or a next generation power semiconductor platform? We need to develop the Innovation Center into a world-class innovation platform. We need to have a plan. Market entry, talent, techniques. We need to work together on these fronts. We need to attract talent.
问题，第一个问
Thank you, Ms. Liang, for your question. The first is about collaboration. I'd like to ask a colleague to answer. Okay, you were asking about, about talents. We need to be open and fair. The National Innovation Center is intended to be industry-led and use actually collaborate with enterprises and also to achieve consensus. The center should also achieve breakthroughs so as to foster the transformation of R&D results and elevate the upgrading of the industry. So the Innovation Center actually also, besides that, there's also an industry network set up to involve leading enterprises. Therefore, for the Innovation Center, we have already liaised with a number of mainland enterprises, including those in Zhejiang province or Shandong, Suzhou. We have liaised with them. We are confident that in this quarter, that is by June, we can activate the network. And through the network, the enterprises can be linked up together with the industry. Hong Kong's special in that besides having the presence of leading enterprises, we also have networks with famous enterprises overseas, so we can create a bigger kick. As for the issue of talents, when we set up the MRDI, we chose to focus on semiconductors out of consideration for Hong Kong's past history of microelectronics development and also the research scenes at local universities. The various universities in Hong Kong, particularly in the electronic and mechanical engineering departments, power semiconductors is an area that these universities are strong in. For example, Hong Kong U, HKUST, and City U. They have good teams of top experts, professors. And since the 1960s, Hong Kong was very outstanding in microelectronics. It used to be ranked number 1 or 2 in Asia. Lots of top companies around the world set up factories in Hong Kong. So we had a glorious past in microelectronics. So in Hong Kong's people's DNA, we do have microelectronics. So therefore, based on the current trends of technological development and also in light of the demand within the nation, we do have this potential to, for example, with the rise and importance of new energy and also new energy vehicles, we have much room for development of the third generation of semiconductors. So power semiconductors was the theme that we chose 3 years ago, and now in light of the needs in our nation, we have chosen to focus on it. That is the technology involved in power semiconductors, in achieving breakthroughs in under extreme constraints. And I'm sure that we will be doing frontier research in this area in line with the national goal, and also together with the 33 innovation centers in the mainland, I'm sure will be highly recognized and get support from the government, national government as well. I'm very pleased that LegCo and various sectors in the society are very much in support of our initiative. I'd like to thank LegCo members for your support. Of course, I agree. I support integration of Hong Kong's initiatives into the national development, including the establishment of the first national manufacturing innovation center outside of the Chinese mainland. But since it involves a budget of $220 million, I want to know, have you had any idea about the number of private enterprises who are willing to collaborate or likely to collaborate with MRDI? And also, once we have set up the ecosystem for microelectronics, how much can it contribute to local GDP? And also, when the center is established, if it were to collaborate with mainland research institutes, which party would enjoy the intellectual property, and what percentage, of course, of share can Hong Kong have so that our research results can remain in Hong Kong for transformation into products? The MRDI is actually in full swing. By the end of this year, it should complete its establishment of its 2 pilot lines. Early next year, it should be in operation on a trial basis. And once the 2 pilot lines are established, we will actually have the moving in of a number of enterprises. This MRDI will have commercial collaborations. So Dr. Ko, the CEO of the MRDI, is with us. I don't know whether I can disclose any information at this stage, Dr. Gao, but MRDI can be an important engine for the development of new quality forces, productive force in Hong Kong. So it's an important bridge for R&D in Hong Kong. We hope that this institute can make contributions in due course. If you ask me about its future share of local GDP, I can't give you an answer because it's a research institute, but the enterprises it support could create much impact. And I hope that the MRDI, together with the National Innovation Center, can together make contributions. But now it's at a starting stage. But I hope after some time, I can give you more data or some figures to share with you. But as for intellectual property in Hong Kong, we have a clear guidelines and demarcations on what constitutes IP. The relevant enterprises, we will actually expect them to just comply with the local rules. Any supplement from Dr. Gao? I can supplement here. In the development stage, as Professor Sun said, in the past half a year, we have had close contacts with the industry. We have communicated with more than 100 enterprises. We've now got strong pledges from about 20 enterprises. And these enterprises have signed contracts expressing their willingness to make contributions. We think that about, I think we're in a solid partnership with about 30 enterprises. Some of the enterprises are still exploring how to set up their presence in Hong Kong. We're actively supporting their coming into Hong Kong. As for IP, for MLDI, our intellectual property is defined in accordance with the government policies. Basically, we expect that the ownership of the IP should belong to MLDI. For example, if we were to collaborate with the equipment companies, then we would expect them to, well, we do have the ownership of their IP. That's just because of the equipment needed. So we have a clear differentiation of roles so as to ensure that all partners would be satisfied. Next one is Janice Lam. The paper mentions that the Innovation Center will create a base for primary, secondary school education to nurture young generations with interest in science. Of course, I support this. But Secretary, is there any chance where you can collaborate with various government departments so that the high-end technology like semiconductor can be incorporated into STEAM curriculum in schools? And also, would you carry out teacher training as well so that teachers will have adequate professional knowledge to guide the students? And also, the center itself has a goal of creating a global talent hub and also to carry out world-class infrastructure. But now with the current geopolitics, Western parties may impose sanctions on, for example, overseas experts. So how would you make use of Hong Kong's one country, two systems advantage to ensure that the technology developed here can be accepted by the international market? Secretary? Thank you, Mr. Ng. Well, we were not even set up, and yet you're concerned about our education. I'm grateful for that. Once we are established, we would provide opportunities for our primary and secondary school teachers, students to come to our institute for visits. But it has to be built first. I hope that early next year we can see the results of the institute, and if needed, by then, if there's a need for training of students, we will provide support. As for the nurturing of global talents and our advantage of one country systems, how we can attract talents, I think the National Innovation Center itself would provide an important platform through which outstanding semiconductor experts and enterprises can come to Hong Kong to use their skills. In attracting talents, we cannot just remain not taking proactive moves. We need to provide the platforms and provide industries to attract the talents who can really demonstrate their talents when based in Hong Kong. Therefore, we are setting up the MLDI Innovation Center. Why is it going to be housed in Yuen Long? Because that will be the future microelectronics center featuring various enterprises. Actually, one enterprise has signed a contract with the MEC. So we hope to attract more microelectronics enterprises to set up base in Hong Kong. As Dr. Gao said, a number of enterprises have already signed agreements with the MEC so that they would use our platform to advance their business. So that is a very meaningful thing. Dennis Lau next. On this issue about the National Innovation Center, I've done some homework. In 2015, it is actually at the top of 5 projects laid down by the government to achieve more results in innovation and also to transform more research outcome into products. By 2015 to in the past decade, we have set up such innovation centers, of which one, as I found, actually covers semiconductors. But semiconductors, of course, is an important field. So therefore, we have this microelectronics center that is actually taking advantage of Hong Kong's strengths and allowing us to contribute to the needs of our nation. I'm not worried about shortage of talents in Hong Kong because over the years, whether it's HKUST, Chinese University, Hong Kong U, or together with American universities, they have collaborated with companies like Intel to do research in semiconductors. So I know that the $220 million is not enough. Most important is how we can make use of market force to let companies join a platform. Now you are going to speed up the creation of pilot lines to speed up the work, but under your plan, looking ahead, how many talents can be attracted to Hong Kong, you think? And how many would be nurtured locally? And our own industry chain is inadequate. So how can we take advantage of the mainland market? And also, how can we attract more funds to foster economic growth in Hong Kong so that we can have better development?
谢谢梁子
Secretary, thank you, member, for your question. It's difficult to provide you with concrete figures or specific figures, but I can go over the considerations over the major directions of the future. As you said, innovation centers have been developing in the Chinese mainland for quite a period of time. It is industry-led or enterprise-led. We have our distinct advantage of the principle of one country, two systems. That's why we propose the Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute to lead this project instead of being led by enterprises. We want to trade time for space. Commissioner and Doctor are working very hard to liaise with different enterprises. Just now, Dr. Gao has already leaked some information, not being aware of it. Dr. Gao has attracted many talent for us. He himself is already a high-end talent, a high-caliber talent. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Hong Kong MRDI. 100 or so people working at the Hong Kong MRDI come from the mainland, come from overseas, and so on. You're going to see different schemes and different enterprises coming to establish a presence in Yuen Long. And there will also be new industrialization acceleration scheme. This will also attract many enterprises to establish a foothold in Hong Kong. The future prospect is indeed great. This is the very reason why we set up the Microelectronics R&D Institute. We can attract enterprises to come to Hong Kong to put their products to test. We have production lines. Next, Mr. Ray Wong. I agree with establishing in Hong Kong the first national manufacturing innovation center outside the Chinese mainland. It's about power semiconductors, especially those specifically tailored for extreme environment applications. This is a mammoth task. We need to promote new industrialization, and we also need to leverage the combined forces of the academia, research, and the community. We need to focus on developing the production lines. It will be backed by the wholly government-subsidized Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute, but at the same time, we also need to attract mainland and international power semiconductor enterprises as well as their talent to come to Hong Kong. I'd like to ask about taxation as well as other policies. Will the government roll out tax packages and tax concessions to attract high-caliber talent to Hong Kong? They can join the Innovation Center in Yuen Long. How many semiconductor enterprises has the administration got in touch with? How many of them have expressed interest in joining the first National Manufacturing Innovation Center outside the Chinese Mainland on IP? For Hong Kong registered patent, the technologies can be accepted by our country. I'd like to know the facilitating measures for helping these talent to come to Hong Kong as well as the interfacing measures so that we can make sure software and hardware will be ready in tandem. On tax concessions, as set out in the budget this year, we have tax packages including tax arrangements. We target incoming enterprises to Hong Kong. I believe departments will announce details in due course regarding the number of participating enterprises, IP, and the progress of attracting investments. I'd like to ask Dr. Gao to give you more information. Thank you. So far, as we already said, over 100. Many of these enterprises want to work in a clean laboratory. There are production lines, and there are many facilities. They want these production lines to test their equipment. Some work on materials, and they want us to test whether these materials fulfill industry needs or meet industry needs. They also want to rent warehouses next to us. They may also want to rent office spaces. That is because they need to take into account long-term development. We have limited space. So do we have extra space? We are still exploring this. Regarding intellectual property, we will require that ownership will be ours. We also want to use the approach of authorization. This will spawn more business opportunities. If enterprises want to establish a foothold in Hong Kong, and when they set up companies in Hong Kong, we provide more incentives for them to develop new technologies together with us. Recently, when we discussed with enterprises, we talked about geopolitical situations. Hong Kong has advantages, especially when it comes to research and development. We will explore with them how we can give them better development opportunities amid the current geopolitical landscape. But at present, Hong Kong is the best place for research and development. MRDI is their best partner in Hong Kong. Thank you, Mr. Alan Chen. Thank you, Chairman. I have conducted some research. CIS. Well, put it this way, in the coming 5 to 10 years, we may need to put our phones away. We'll get glasses instead. We now have full display silicon simulation. This is the right time for Hong Kong to overtake our competitors. It is our time to realize our potential. The investment cycle is very short. We can save 40% of our power, and we are leading the world in many areas. We can foster exchanges with experts. We can also help Hong Kong to pursue development in microelectronics, Internet of Things, AI, vehicle parts, satellite communication. We have these areas, and these are important areas in the future. We need to invest in our future. Starting from 2022, we have FDSOI. That is from 690 to 930 million US dollars. It will rise to 4.1 billion US dollars after a jump of 34.5%. My question is straightforward. We are just getting started. We have Samsung, SC Microelectronics. Will we attract enterprises and investments proactively to take part in the research conducted by the Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute? Secretary, thank you, Mr. Chen, for your questions. Just now, as you said, regarding power semiconductors, they have indeed very good development. In 2035, power semiconductors scale all around the world will surpass 1 trillion US dollars. China is the biggest consumption country of power semiconductors, accounting for 40% of the world. Different materials can be used in new energy, air conditioning, home appliances, and so on. Hence, its vast potential. Regarding the three enterprises you mentioned, of course, we welcome them to come to Hong Kong. Considering power semiconductors, we have connections with the world. These technologies are sensitive in some sense. That's why we need to first of all set up the first national manufacturing innovation center outside the Chinese mainland. Afterwards, we want to help different industries to pursue development, whether overseas or mainland enterprises. We want to develop the international market together with these micro enterprises. In the process of our collaboration, our strength lies in our immense market in the Chinese mainland. Dr. Gao worked with different overseas markets. They are the largest power semiconductors in the world. On attracting investment and signing MOU, the Hong Kong Microelectronics R&D Institute would definitely give their best. You need to attract enterprises to work with you. You need to have pilot lines. As long as you have great potential, then they will want to work with you. Thank you, Dr. Thomas So. Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I agree with the establishment of the first National Manufacturing Innovation Center outside the Chinese mainland. I thank the administration for floating this proposal. In a document in paragraph 12, I have noticed that in some series, they are new in Hong Kong, including material physics, parts design, interdisciplinary talent, and so on. Hong Kong doesn't have these areas, and we need to start from scratch. Yes, that is, we need to start from scratch, and this is no easy task. But I do agree that we need to do so. Three years later, they can self-finance themselves, and 5 years later, they can expect that they can reap profits. Just now I heard from Dr. Gao. He had signed some agreement with some companies. You expect to break even for 3 years, after 3 years, and profit after 5 years. How did you arrive at this assessment? Is it true that you can draw reference from the experience of the 33 national manufacturing center? How did you arrive at this projection?
谢谢苏议员的问题。
Secretary, thank you, Mr. So, for your question. On the first question, I gave much details about our future plan in relation to the finance. The key lies in the fact that the Innovation Center, its operational mode will be that of a research institute, and this institute, in its course of operation, it will, of course, provide the resources needed. And as for how we can expand the involvement and collaboration of the industry, I'll ask my colleague to respond, but I'd like him to supplement. I think right now our goal is actually a requirement of the National Innovation Center. Therefore, MLDI will strive towards reaching the goal. The National Innovation Center has got government support here. On the other hand, we will try various modes to ways to also get support from the national government and enterprises. We have seen the support of leading enterprises, and we've communicated with them. So we are confident that within 5 years we can reach our goal. But of course, we need to make a multi-pronged approach and don't rely on one resource alone. There are challenges. We are under much pressure as well, but we need to actually play the role of a national center, and it's a very important task, and there are stringent requirements. We only do our best. And of course, I hope that the Hong Kong government and LegCo will support us as well, so that we can, with full force, develop the innovation center. And we have taken into consideration the situation in the mainland. Centers in the mainland are also led by enterprises, and each center focuses on 1 or 2 main enterprises, and the basic development of the center could be consolidated over time so as to help us reach our goal, because enterprises at the center will continue to produce products. The nation has always encouraged enterprises to get involved much. Hong Kong now under one country, 2 systems. It's hard for us to find or identify 1 or 2 enterprises to help us reach the goal. We will just try to set up MLDI first, and we provide resources for them. And I hope that together we can join hands in 3 to 5 years. Financially speaking, in terms of operational mode, we can have good results. Thank you. So all members have asked questions, so let me express my stance. I'm very much in support of this odd item because it's what our nation is facing now. We do hope that Hong Kong can overtake other competitors. I support this project. And as mentioned by other members, the 3 year, 5 years, As mentioned in the paper, well, it's rare to have this definite time frame in a government paper. It's difficult to see profits maybe in that time frame, but the Secretary explained it very clearly. We actually would take advantage of the development of micro electronics. I think we can do that, achieve the goal. And also of the $220 million and the support from the industry, a total of $400 million. What ratio of it will be injected into equipment, and what about those injected into resources? And compared to the existing equipment at the Microelectronics Center, would there be new equipment to be installed? And my second question is, just now a member mentioned that we have new subjects, new disciplines that you focus on, which may not be researched into at university. Would you make use of the institute to collaborate with universities to open relevant courses so as to nurture more relevant talents and attract young people to go down the road of R&D? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Ng, for your question. As for the injection of $220 million and the other amount, similar amount outside, well, they would be in accordance with the national requirement, be invested in equipment. And I hope that the Research Institute can also provide resources to support our operations. Some equipment at the Research Institute is different from that in the Future Innovation Center, but the Research Institute itself will provide resources and support, because we still need to provide equipment specialized for innovation center. Right now, the Research Institute has established close ties with universities. It has actually been involved in joint research targeting microelectronics disciplines I just mentioned, new disciplines, that is. So right now, there are in universities offering different courses. Whether we should establish new ones, I think we need to discuss it with universities first. It depends on the whole of microelectronics, how it's developing in Hong Kong. Sometimes you don't need to create whole new courses, but for a certain course, we could incorporate relevant learnings or modules so that students can, in the learning process, before they get a degree, pick up relevant knowledge. That would be an easier approach. So I think that's the end for questioning. I'd just like to ask members, do you not object to the submission of this funding proposal to LegCo? Okay, no objection. I'll submit this proposal to LegCo. And thank you, the administration, for answering our questions. And you've got the support of our members. Next item is AOB. So no AOB today. Meeting now adjourned. Thank you.